Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today with us. Right, my name is Yubeng, and the forum here today is called Digital Storytelling and what your online presence says about you. Right, our online presence refers to all activities and content that an entity, which is either a person or business, have under their name on the distributed series of computers that we fondly call the internet. I'm sure everyone has heard of the internet. This includes accounts, assets, interactions, phone numbers, bank account numbers. Don't forget that. And any piece of information created by or for a business or person. Don't forget, what you do on the internet, it remembers forever. Now, as the digital sphere has expanded and technology advances, people search online before making a purchase and before they find anything that helps them to make their decision to do business with a person or a company. The internet resources is now the primary source of information for anyone to start a search. Hence, it's important for us to create a strong and positive online presence. However, creating this image online is hard work. It requires forethought into what message you would want to convey, as well as the written and technical skills required to create the image you would like others to see you with. A personal brand offers a chance to display your skills, to draw in public interest, and to establish strong marketing campaigns. Hence, this forum, Digital Storytelling, what your online presence says about you, will share the different perspectives from our participants on digital ethics and professionalism. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers. A big thank you to our convener, Honey, as well as to my team from IAMU, that is the Industry Partnership and Career Development Unit, in organizing this forum. I would also like to acknowledge IMU for financial support in making this possible. So sit back, enjoy, and don't forget to interact with our speakers. Thank you. Honey, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kang. Really appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Good morning and Assalamualaikum. I would like to welcome everyone to our session today. With us today, we have four fantastic panelists with us. So it's going to share some of their journeys, some of the sharings that they have gone through over their careers, and some insights, tips, and tricks, and all that on what needs to be done or what not need be done on the digital platform that you're in. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Hani, and for those of you who are on LinkedIn and are familiar with the environment of LinkedIn in Malaysia, I am known as the career doctor. It's very honored. I feel very honored to be with all of you today, and thank you so much to Dr. Kang, Doreen, as well as Najwa. I would like to introduce our panel speakers today. These are fantastic people that that you guys should follow on LinkedIn at the same time. Let me introduce you Emilia Aziyati. So let me just introduce all of you to her. She is currently the head of corporate communications and branding for Sunrise Berhad. Currently, she has corporate branding, PR, internal comms, CSR, and stakeholder engagement, sustainability, and creative studio under her portfolio. So it's a very big portfolio that she carries with herself. Let me introduce you to Azif Mustafa. I would say, you know, no one not knowing Azif Mustafa should know him by now. Currently, he's the head of culture in transformation and employee engagement with Celcom Axiata. He introduced to all of you, very unique personality. Please meet Dr. Divya Diana Supia. Now, why is this individual so unique? Isn't she lovely? But it comes with the greatest brain behind there. She is, she was let me just rephrase myself. She has taken part in several major pageants, and her first beauty pageant was when she was 21. At that time, she was enrolled in medical school, so that was quite a number of years ago. Last but not least, let me introduce you to Fazril Azahar, who has over 16 years experience in information technology and cybersecurity industry. He has a strong acumen in developing cybersecurity propositions, drawing on his sound understanding of the evolving threat landscape and disruptive technology that significantly alters the way consumers, industries, businesses, or how businesses operate.
Now, creative social media is basically using social platforms to market yourself, if you allow me to say that. I think what people are starting to understand now, that this generation is moving towards the online platform, and a lot of things are found online, a lot of things are done online, recruitment, background checks, and all sorts of things. And basically social media is what your brand is. You are your brand. So whatever that you post, whether it's your Instagram, your Facebook, or Twitter, I think one has to remember that that represents you, and that's your brand. And any thing you say or do will and can be, taken against you. Now, in my situation, because I'm doing both at a time, I have to be very careful about what I post. Now, because I still model, I still do not so much pageants. Pageants have passed. I'm too old for competitions already. But I still do a lot of shoots and modeling. I work for some very credible designers in Malaysia. But I still have to be very careful about what I post. It doesn't matter what I wear on stage, because that's my job. I'm being paid for it, and there's a platform for it. But what I choose to post, because my followers does not only consist of people from the fashion industry, but also people in the medical department. And I also I'm affiliated with 2 NGOs that we work with women and children under the B40 category. So I have a lot of kids, underprivileged kids, who are following me. So I have to always think about what they are going to judge. What am I portraying myself on social media? I thought I do a lot of brand reviews, a lot of product reviews. I've got approached some funny things like vaping, and some weird things. Like, I'll give you a very good example. A vape company, I won't mention which company, they approached me saying that okay, this vape is, they've done a lot of research, and this can help quit smoking, and as a doctor you should stand for it, and you should be our ambassador. And they were giving a good quote, for this. And I was thinking to myself, I did a bit of research, and I saw, number one, I'm against smoking and vaping by default. I'm a doctor. But number two, also, what kind of image am I going to be portraying if I am supporting such a brand? And if I do that, how many of my followers are going to think that, oh, since Divya Diana does this, it's okay to do this, or she endorsed this brand, so it's all right. Maybe I want to quit smoking, and I want to go into vaping, and and then cause a lot more problems. So I always have to think 10 times before I put up my content. And I think the younger generation somehow fail to think about the future when they post things, especially when they vent. I see a lot of people venting on Twitter about their school or their company or whatever organization that they're in, but they don't understand that now this is where the juice is. I'm sure recruiting companies would know that everyone does background checks now on social media. They want to see what kind of person you are, so that they know that what kind of employer that they're going to be employing to their company, what kind of addition to their company that they're going to have. I think it's very important that you think of what kind of image you want to portray. Whether you're like that, I mean, a different person at home, keep that at home. But what you want to put out there in the cloud, what they say, once it's in the cloud, it's in the cloud. you don't
Yes,
get
it
it
stays
out.
on.
Yeah, whatever you put online stays there forever. So I think it's very important that we should you know,
Sure.
think about 5 years down the road. How do I want people to remember me? Is it, oh, that girl who posted this or said this about her teacher or her lecturer, or you know, something like that. Yeah, some of us don't know when to stop and when to say no. And I think it's come for me through experience, because when you're starting off as an influencer or a personality, you want to take every opportunity that comes, because you want to put yourself out there, you want to be seen. And I think a lot of people take that too far. For me, I think, I don't know if it's luck that because I was in the medical background from the very beginning, I've always been very careful. In fact, because I was in IMU, I was always thinking, oh my God, people are going to judge me. My professors are going to see me. They're going to, like, you know, think, what are you doing on stage? But thankfully not. Everyone at IMU was very supportive. Um, yeah, for me, I think I say no when it goes against my culture and upbringing. So something that I wear, or something that I'm told to endorse, or something that I don't believe in, or I don't think I would do it, I wouldn't let my future kids do it, or I wouldn't let my siblings do it, then I probably won't endorse that brand.
I think in the world we're living in today, communication and information is imperative with whatever we need to do, because it helps us with our decision-making process, right? The access to high-speed connectivity, and of course, I believe everybody know about the world moving into from 4G to 5G communication. This is something that would bring a lot of value to our day-to-day human life, or the work that human would be doing with work, with the personal life. It's important to have, like what Doctor mentioned earlier, what I call as self-regulation, right? You need to know what's best, what's not, what's good, what's beneficial, and what's harmful, you know, because communication technology is now such a powerful tool. I started my career back in 2003 with banking and financial institution, one of the regulator in Malaysia. That year was actually known or marked by the year of the slammer worm virus.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
2003, almost 750,000 computers were affected in just a span of 15 to 30 minutes time frame. All right. My work at that point of time requires myself to ensure system availability and integrity is well kept to process some payment instrument. So it's very critical to have the system uptime at the highest level possible, 99.999%. The slammer attack reminded me that at that period or that point of time, when we lost almost about 15 minutes of processing power or processing time, there was a delay in the clearing process. That delay affects the bank, which eventually would affect individual and businesses. So I would like to just recall that with technology, there comes great responsibility. All right, so that's why I take my job seriously, like what you asked Azif earlier. By the way, Azif, I'm one of your followers. All right. So with technology comes very big responsibility, and that keeps me awake most of the nights thinking, how could I play my role better to make sure everybody understand how important it is to stay safe and secure online. All right. So I'm not trying to oversell anything, right? This is what drives me. And that incident back in 2003 really opened up my eyes. The more we're going to use technology, the more responsibility we're going to have, the more people are going to abuse the power of technology they have, right? There'll be more people becoming victim there'll be more people coming on board to protect, the people from becoming victim. All right. So coming back to your question, when you have social media at the palm of your hand, last time 2003, the power of mobile phones are not that to the level we have today. It's running
Almost non-existent lah.
almost non-existent. It's like a brick phone with a very primitive processing system. So you can't do much, right? Even text messages were not allowed from one telco to the other.
All right, correct.
So just give you walk down the memory lane, right? So today we are almost holding a powerful processing device in the palm of our hand. Some of us might have even more than just one computer in our pockets. It can do a lot of things. It's a very powerful device.
Yes.
Which a lot of us, sometimes underutilized, right? And a lot of us actually maybe is, including myself, maybe I'm just guilty of sometimes forgetting what's right to ensure the safety of the information that resides on my mobile phone. Of course, as much as possible, you would like to remind yourself constantly of the do's and don'ts, right? And self-regulation, that brings us back to having a good online or digital ethics, right? So this is answering your question just now, why we should be considering the use of social media and what can help us better, and what can help us utilize social media to the benefit of everyone,
Sure.
including what we do.
Nobody knows. That's number one. What would work and what doesn't. So, and another thing that Dr. Kang spoke about early on in his opening, and what Fazril just talked about, is the permanency of the net, right? So whatever you put out there is there for life. I mean, even if you delete it, somebody has saved it, somebody has screen capped it, somebody has recorded it. So it is there for life. So for all the viewers out there, that's one thing you must keep in mind, is the permanency of whatever you put out on the cloud. It's going to be there, and your kids are going to see it, your grandchildren are going to see it. And like what Dr. Divya is saying, if it doesn't fit with her values, she's not going to promote it. But a lot of kids put out stuff that shouldn't be out there. Your parties, that's just wrong. Just don't do it. And I'm in HR, and we do check and we do look at your social media. We look at, what kind of person is this guy going to join us? Do they fit with our values? So if they don't, I mean, you just don't want to close opportunities that are there for you just because of one, fun thing that you did that may not sit well with others. So with that, you don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. Actually, my journey on LinkedIn just started really in August. I was on the platform for 5 years, and I was looking down at my history, and I did nothing for the first few years, once a year, maybe one post every few months. So I had no followers. But in August, what happened was there was actually Nina from Popcorn, and she runs,
yes.
Yeah, and you know her, and she runs
Of course.
of micro influencers, and she helps companies around the country with their own social media. And she came and spoke at an event, it's at Celcom, and she was talking to me about LinkedIn and how fast it's growing, how many people are on there, how much it's helping businesses. So I thought I have to look at this deeper. So what I did was there's a checklist of things that you need to do. Okay, you engage with your followers, you post videos, you post pictures, you post short videos, you talk about yourself, you be authentic. So I did all of that. It was just really off a checklist. Okay, this is what I do, this is what I do. Okay, I've done this, this, and this, with the intent of building a core of influencers within Celcom. And what this will do is, because of the increased profile of our employees, it will increase our employer branding as well. Because as you know, all companies are competing for the top talent, and we are competing not just with other telcos, we compete with the Googles of the world and the Microsofts and all these other cool companies. So we need to show what we're about. But having said that, most critical, I think, honey, is being authentic. So what I put out there is who I am and who my cats are and who my kids are. And this is really what's going on in my life. And I'm putting it out there for all to see. Also, because it's about building your own personal branding. I think that's what we need to talk about today. And for the guys, the students that are out there, you know, it's never too early. You need to start building your presence now. Just like Dr. Divya has done, just like everybody else, in 10 years' time, you will have 10 years of online history, and that is what you need to curate. That's what you need to build from today. Even though you don't have a job yet, you don't think you have an interesting life, it does not matter. Your life is your life, and you do you the best. Nobody can do you the way you can do you. So, you know, put that out there, be authentic to who you are, and, you know, see where it goes.
Yeah, if it's like a business article that I might actually putting out there, of course I would need a lot of eyeballs looking at it. And for organizations, I think huge organizations, you probably have agencies helping you. But that would particularly be, say, if it's a crisis, you have a crisis agency. But of course, a lot of times now we have internal teams doing PR or media relations work. So it is actually your responsibility to be ethical, your responsibility to be very, very careful when it comes to the content that you put out there. Hence, again, of course, um, collaborating with a lot of departments, check and balances. Yeah, so those things are very important. So I'm maybe to share my experience back with Bank Simpanan Nasional. uh, I think there were a lot of times that we have to very careful when it comes to the numbers that we would release to the media. And there are a lot of jargons, financial jargons, that you need to probably be able to explain as well. So a lot of times you need to be ensuring that you are also there in terms of your knowledge when it comes to numbers, financials, although you are not particularly doing a financial piece, but numbers are still important. So I think you have to ensure that you are technically an all-rounder when it comes to content, and ethical all the time, looking back at the core values of your company as well.
Which comes to the next question, Amelia. We are still in ethics in storytelling. I mean, whatever that we put out there is storytelling still, but we're still revolving around ethics and values and all that. How do you know personally that whatever that you're putting out there is ethical? You know, it's such a big word. How is this going to be ethical enough for me to churn out and make sure that it doesn't, go off tangent from the ethics that I carry?
Yeah, I think I would probably, I mean, for students maybe, or for the audience out there, it's gonna be a bit of soul searching as well. Yeah, you need to probably be able to know what's your niat, what's your intent, what's your purpose, what's your essence, what's your characteristics, again, what are your values. So those are foundations for you when it comes to being ethical. And
Wow.
I even maybe to share right now at the company I'm in, UM Sunrise, we are a property developer. So it is, I can say, it's a very big and mortar organisation. Nak put content out there pun kadang-kadang dulu orang kata content boring. So how do you make it fun?
Yes, yes.
not go off tangent, nak jadi macam self-com sikit, azam-azam sikit kan. And so we came up with this whole new tagline, finding happiness, finding and core values are very relatable, very emotional, emotive. Simple ones like caring, being honest, being enthusiastic, fun-loving. So today I'm wearing a hoodie, chill. He's the Chief Happiness Officer. We're trying to.
Oh, I'd like that. Can we get one of those?
Yeah, so again, you need to do some soul searching and you need to be able to know that what you really want to stand for, how you can change the world, but still being grounded, ethical, responsible to what you are posting out there.
So basically what you're saying, before we actually put out anything, because it's my page or it's my post, we need to do a little bit of thinking, like you said, the soul searching bit where we find what is it really that we want to put out there, guided by a few things. Is that what you're saying?
I think that would probably be also a challenge, even maybe for or Fazril or Azif, whenever they want to put out content, there's planning behind it, strategy behind it.
That's true. Yeah.
Box, you know,
Yeah.
you must ensure that you have weekly content. So right now, I mean, if people were to go to my LinkedIn, I'm probably like Azif 5 years ago, because I don't really have anything right now. But that's just a personal thing to me, because I would put content on other mediums. Because for me, LinkedIn, I would actually use LinkedIn now more to put my company out there, profiling my company, because I do enjoy working with the kind of organization. So it's not so much me, but it's me utilizing the platform to actually build the reputation of my company.
There's definitely two worlds apart. People always ask me this. I mean, it's so much difference between medicine and modeling. Well, if you say challenges throughout transitioning, I would say society itself, because we live in a very judgmental society. And being a medical student, I was always very shy about or embarrassed about telling anyone about my pageantry or modeling, because I'd always think people would judge me. So I was very careful, but eventually, especially with Miss Universe being the biggest platform here, I was all over newspapers, I was in articles, and then everyone started asking me in uni, and I pretended like, no, that's not me, that's just someone else that sounds has the same name.
You did say that. My goodness.
I tried everything.
You know, that's not going to work, right?
I know, and especially actually there was one of this sister or nurse in IMU Seremban Clinical School. I can't remember her name, but she was the nicest, the most sweetest. So she had this piece of newspaper cut out and stuck on the IMU board, and she's like, oh, hey, this is you, right? And I was like, no, take it down. Oh my God, what are you doing? You were like killing my reputation right now. But I think because I was in pageantry, it's not as frowned upon compared to other modeling, because pageantry is more, I don't know, they considered acceptable. You know, there's a lot of empowerment in it. And if you win a title, then hey, you get lucky, and then people remember you for your achievement. But I've seen other friends or people that I've known who are just in modeling generally, and it depends on what kind of outfits you model for and what kind of designers you model for. I've seen people being judged very, very often. And I guess I'm lucky because I have a medical background. So even in the outside world, in society, people are always like, oh, okay, at least she's a doctor. But you know, you tend to get, yeah, you tend to get a lot of this common misconception that if you're a model, you're like a bimbo, you know, like, oh, you just need to look pretty on stage. And I had a designer who once very clearly, I remember this. For one show, I was walking in, and he said, "You don't need brains to become a model. You know, you're a hanger. You're just a hanger. You're hanging my clothes. You're walking on this stage, and you're coming back.
My
You just need to look
goodness.
pretty." And I was like, "Ouch." So I guess it's just misconception, but transitioning both worlds, I think, because in the medical field, by default, if you graduate, if you finish your degree, you automatically get into the pool of housemanship, and everything is just a process. So I didn't really have experience of applying, sending my applications, waiting for them to, you know, review me. It was all automatic. I got my placement, I did it in Klang. Of course, even that time I was like hiding away, shying away, because everyone sort of like, "Your name looks familiar. I must have read this name somewhere." And I'm like, "Oh no, I have no idea what you're talking about." But then, you know, eventually staff nurses find out. And I don't know if anyone who's like in the government sector listening to me, but government servants have a lot of time, free time, to talk about everything under the sun, especially staff nurses. My nurses are always talking about something, and somehow everybody finds out. But I think I haven't got that much of a problem with getting a job, but I'm assuming that if I was trying to apply for any other position that is not automatically, you know, given to me, I think I would have quite a bit of a problem, maybe, especially if they look through my profile and see, you know, that pictures or shows or events. Also because I still do events and I still do shoots, so that may, you know, have some employers may doubt whether, you know, I can be fully committed to the company, or am I going to take a lot of leaves? Am I going to take a lot of, you know, time off for my shoots and things like that? So I'm lucky in the sense that everything was put out for me, and I just followed the process. Two people, for example, myself, because I work in a lot of charity organizations, I try to put myself out there, and I always talk about what I do, and I share my journey, and I talk about how much we can help other people. That actually brings a lot of attention. People always call me for events and call me to speak here. And for example, like this forum on its own, if there was someone, maybe because plus point, I'm an IMU alumni, but if I wasn't, you know, compared to someone else who's in the beauty industry who doesn't share as much, and they may be doing a lot of things, they may be doing more than me, they may be reaching out to a lot of organizations, but they don't show as much. Unfortunately, we are in a world where we only believe what we see. So, you know, if only you put it out there and you tell your story about how much you're doing, then you would build your own opportunities. You kind of create your own opportunities for more things to be done.
Absolutely, and I think we all should be in charge of our own storytelling, because if we don't do that, we are allowing others to write that script for us, and there are so many things that we won't like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, and I think this is fantastic. As I promised all of you, I have tough questions for all of our panelists today, and that was one of it.
And he was so passionate. He was climbing on the bed. He was telling me this story. I was rolling around laughing. And I thought, oh my goodness, this man is incredible, right? He's just a master at his craft, and it is his craft. He's a author. He writes scripts, and if you've studied sastra, you know him as Kala Dewata. He wrote the timeless Atap Genting Atap Rimbia. So that was my link, and I'm so proud of him. So anyway, I grew up in this household where storytelling was very, very ingrained in everything that we did. So I have that sort of advantage. I know, you know, a good story when I hear one, I can probably tell one. But as I posted recently on LinkedIn, I still learned this craft, because you can always learn. And I said I had a white belt mentality. I approach things as if I know nothing, and it has helped me tremendously, because every interaction I have is a learning process for me. And you know, unlike my co-panelists, Amelia and Dr. Divya and Fazrul especially, I can't sell on my looks. The three of them are gorgeous. I'm 52 years old. Yeah, I don't feel anymore. I'm too old for that. So my stories have to engage and have to bring people in, and have to get people to ask for more. And I hope I'm doing that. From the data, if you go from a data analytics point of view, I have tripled my following in 3 months just by consistently telling stories every day on LinkedIn. Again, on data, more than 500 million people are on LinkedIn. About half of them are on every single week. So about 250 to 300 people are on every week. And only 3 million people post on a weekly basis. So only 1% of people post once a week. So as long as you do that, you'll be in the top 1 percentile already. And where else can you have this kind of audience, this kind of views? So Emilia, start posting. Livia, start posting. I know you've been there once, but you've never been there anymore. Fazril is already quite active. But really, in order to engage your audience, you need to be consistent at it. And I would encourage all students out there who are listening today, create your account, start building your online presence, start building your story and tell your stories. I saw just last week, one graduate, all she was talking was about her rejection that she's getting from don't know how many job applications that she's posted. She had 50,000 views. She had thousands and thousands of comments. And I don't get that kind of views. I don't get that kind of content. So, you never know what works. But as a student, there's no other platform that you can get on that you can get this kind of traction with the right people. These are the people who are going to hire you once you graduate. These are the people that are going to help you in your career and mentor you. So it's just an amazing platform. I'd encourage everybody to get active on it. No, again, remember that whatever you put out there is permanent. All these TikTok videos. I mean, TikTok is hot now and many companies are looking at it. And I think that it does create quite a bit of engagement, and there's, more respectable type of TikTok accounts that are getting famous now. But I personally feel, and, I hope 5 years down the road, and we'll look back at this recording, I feel TikTok will go the same route as, all the ones that were so big before but are no longer there. Vine was so huge, everybody was on Vine. And then, all of these are short-lived, I think, but are useful for now. I think people can embrace it if they have stories to tell on TikTok. They can use it, but I wouldn't count on it for being a long-term strategy for people. But as long as people put it out there, video is fantastic, and I've found that video creates a lot of engagement. Maybe not as many views as pictures on LinkedIn right now, but video really draws people in, and you get a lot more engagement, and people really want to get to know you better. Again, you don't have to be a beauty queen like Divya to be on video. I can do it at 52 years old, anyone can do it. But that's not the only medium, of course. If you write, you can write. You can go to medium.com and publish articles, or voice is something fantastic now. There's a lot of SoundCloud, and you can put out podcasts that can get millions of listeners if you get the right stories out. So there's many avenues. Just go out there and put it out, as long as it's consistent with your values and who you are. That you want people to know when you have children and grandchildren on the road.
I think like I've shared earlier, it is very important to have proper planning and strategy in all that you do actually. Particularly if it's content, I think the first thing that people usually ask themselves would be, how can I be different from the rest? Because it's a crowded space. You need to differentiate yourself, and how do you do that? So I think you need to be able to ensure that you stand out, and be relevant, be sensitive to the current situation. So if you look at, and I think because of the pandemic, it seems like a lot of people are becoming influencers. So a lot of people find it probably pretty easy to be relatable. I think like what Azif has shared, probably that particular graduate who are not able to get a job, or those are the social things that we are facing right now. And why people are able to relate to that is because a lot of people are facing the same challenges. So when you curate content, you need to be very sensitive of the current issues. Um, and then I think if let's say we were to look at the current pandemic as well, I think a lot of people were earlier on posting things like duduk di rumah, things you can do at home. But after a while, then that became probably
Yeah.
overdoing it, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to probably take a breather and see what are other things that probably can make you stand out. Uh, and of course, it's not easy. So hence why strategy is very important. And for organizations, they would usually look at competitors, what other competitors are doing, but don't just benchmark yourself with competitors. I think personally, I would look at competitors as well as other organizations, not just in Malaysia, but also international organizations, because there are times other organizations are way more advanced than us. So there is actually a lot to learn from everyone. So
Mm.
for an individual, if you are building your own personal brand, your personal content, curating your own strategy, it is important to look at, well, it is not that bad to imitate, but when you imitate, you innovate as well. Um, so that's not really being a copycat. Imitate, innovate, and look at personalities like Dr. Livia, and there's a lot to learn from everyone. So, but from there on, you look at how you can add value. So,
Mm.
personal branding, I think, is a journey, and personal branding, although it is personally to you, but it's actually also about them, about the audience, about who's out there, about how you can add value to them. Strategizing is good, but don't overthink. Once you overthink, I think that would be like a pressure to you. So you end up not posting anything, maybe.
So you overanalyze, you plan and you plan,
Yes, yes. It is good
and
to plan strategy, but don't overdo it lah. Don't overdo it.
I think to answer your question, I would like to take the opportunity to explain to you on maybe some of the cases that been properly, written over the internet about a few social media breaches. Okay, and then from what I'm listening from other panelists, how businesses is in fact embracing the power of social media to augment their business, right, their operation. How influencers like Doctor is using and adopting social media as a powerful tool to drive her online presence, right, to share messages, to spread more good words about doing good deeds, right. So there's a common theme to this. Actually, social media is enabling our daily life, right. It's becoming the new goal. All right, it's a powerful tool, not just powerful, but it's bringing value to our life, and it's delivering value to the business we are attached with, or business that we are dealing with, interacting with, right? Marketers are now using social media to do advertisement. They're moving away from the conventional television, radio, which is something to me innovative, right? So there's value in social media that also attract the bad people. All right. So I'll
it's like a
explain.
honey pot, isn't it?
Yes, I'll explain to you some of the breaches. Why they are doing this. What are the motivation? Who are the people interested on our data? Why are we an attractive target? Let me just share with you. If you can see the screen now, just
Hmm.
can you also see this? Facebook
Yep, yep.
accounts of 50 million users compromised. So if you today have never changed your password since you started getting online on Facebook, you better do that now. All right.
Very interesting. Just yesterday, I read about the top 50 passwords that is so famous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. So that's what we call as unhygienic practice to being online. So there's also cyber hygiene that we need to know. This is where I would like to maybe take the time sharing with you guys. To be online, we have to have something on the forefront of our thinking to also make sure we become a harder target for cyber vigilantes. Right? It starts by putting a strong password or a two-factor authentication on our social presence. That helps a lot, and that slows down the attacker from getting us to become one of a statistic of cyber attack. Right? So this is another example. I'd like to show to you catfish, Dr. Divya. It's a harsh word given to you by that person who say you're just a hanger.
Yeah.
To me, they shouldn't be online at all, because those harsh words in the physical world will be even more harsher online, because when people read that messaging, it's down to the perspective and down to the interpretation of a different person. All right. So misconstrued messaging is really harmful actually. All right. So when we have those group of people, it's could lead to something harmful for all the other audience. And this is one example of how Bill Gates Twitter being catfished by a cyber attacker trying to gain or trick others in giving up their money. All right, so you'll be amazed and quite surprised how many people fall for this type of trick actually.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah. So there's also something that not so recently, in 2013, an example where a news agency in the US, one of the Twitter account managed by one of the employee in the branding and marketing communication department got hacked. It's a targeted type of attack. This attacker really spent time understanding the user, knowing what and when he or she goes online, all right, before compromising the Twitter account access. All right, you see the impact to US during that very small time window. The Dow Jones went down sharp, very sharp, when they posted fake news about the explosion at the White House. So this, if you relate back, could be something damaging to your brand. If we don't protect our social media presence, somebody might gain unauthorized access to our account and start posting irrelevant, damaging stuff and sending wrong messages about our brand. Tricking our followers into believing something that are not correct. So that's where I believe Aziz said something really useful: build presence, use social media as much as possible. I echo that. I agree with you, but we also need to think about becoming resilient. All right, cyber resilience is very important. Having the right brain to use social media with the right ethic is also important, but making sure we are not susceptible to the cyber vigilantes is also as much it's very important to make sure you don't become the statistic at the end of the day. The other example I would like to share with you, this is LinkedIn breach back in 2000, if not mistaken, 16. There's about 159 million account stolen. Aziz mentioned there's about 500 million LinkedIn users today.
Yeah,
Right?
about 600, 700.
Yeah. So this guy is posting it on the 25th of November. He has access to 150 million accounts. He's selling it online.
Crazy.
He's making money actually, right? Because
How
one
much are they
user
making?
record, one user record, this is the current price. You know, this is the new oil. You don't have to do anything. You just, you know, imagine the new business model in the dark world here. It's actually, you know, to them it's easy money. It's crime is changing from physical to the online world. So we don't want to be encouraging this. We don't want to certainly become part of the statistics. We can't continue doing mistakes that we maybe are doing at this point of time. All right, it
Yeah.
starts with basic hygiene, basic
Yes.
understanding of how to be safe online.
Sure.
If we start getting information that's unclear or difficult for us to ascertain if it's real or not, it's probably not real.
It
All right.
sounds like a duck. It smells like a duck. It looks like a duck. It cannot be a cat,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. So it's probably not real. You see, now the anxiety of a lot of Malaysians are towards COVID-19. At beginning of March, there's a lot of malicious malware being published on Apple Store, on the Android market.
Yep. Yep.
Those applications are mostly bogus and malicious applications. They just want access to your mobile phones, to your computers, really, right? You notice those applications don't really need to have your geographic or GPS location. They don't really need to have access to your phone books or your uh, file that stores your photos. They don't, right? If it's an application, if it's legit, they just need to send information to me. So these are actually being used by common attackers today to trick us into installing malicious malwares or softwares onto our devices.
Fazril, I have a question for you. I have
Sure.
a crucial and tough question for you. I have a statement, and you tell me whether this is right to some extent. I think that a lot of Malaysians are gullible. I'm not quite sure. I know I'm going to be in a hot soup by saying this, but I think a lot of Malaysians are pretty gullible, especially when it comes to downloading stuff. And what they really require is a little bit of an extra critical thinking when they see things which are out of norm. You know, so what do you think? How can we not be gullible?
I think first and foremost, we have to understand what's important to us. What critical information or asset do we own that might be of interest to another party? All right. So this in the cybersecurity world, we call it as a risk assessment. I'm sure all other agencies like Amelia and Azif are quite well versed on how to do risk assessment. Right, this is understanding what we have that might be of value to other parties, and if this asset or so-called valuable information is stolen or is damaged, what would be the result afterwards? Okay, to a certain extent, what I normally do on a personal basis is to fast forward what could go wrong if I do this, if I don't do, or if I downloaded or if I don't downloaded this application, what would go wrong, right? It could be as simple as that, right, Hani? The other thing would be installing your mobile or computer with the latest antivirus. Could be a good start, maybe not enough, because I've seen a lot of sophisticated attacks nowadays that evade conventional perimeter devices. They are getting
Even
more.
your mobile phone.
Yes, yes. You can actually go to Cybersecurity Malaysia and find out the latest statistic. It's appalling to me. The number of fraud cases enabled by the use of social media or the use of internet are increasing every month. Even at this point of time, we are in the last month of 2020. I think we might have exceeded the number last year, you know, in terms of the case reported to Cybersecurity Malaysia. You can go to MyCert, MYCERT, right? In fact, Syntax also work closely with the people from MyCert. Cases that we found firsthand, we will normally share with them, right? We have an intelligence, we have a cyber intelligence team that studies what's happening around the world, and then what does that means to Malaysia. So it's part of our day-to-day activities here in Syntax, Sdn Bhd. Those are the scary things, you know, those are the worst case scenarios that I would say could happen to us if we don't become aware of how to become or how to be hygienic online. The short answer is, you know, we have to be mindful what kind of information the other party is trying to access to, and why do they need that information, for what reason, right? some some organization might come back and justify it's important for some internal reviews, so on and so forth, right? But it's really down to how logical, you know, the
Yes.
decision given by the other parties. But there is today, and in fact there is since 2010 a Personal Data Protection Act, which I'm sure Emilia from Sunrise is very, very familiar with, Azif as well. There is an act that actually empower us citizen to give permission or not on a access to process basis. You know, when a company or an organization require to have access to your personal information, you have to provide them consent. Otherwise, they can't use it. They can't own it. They can't store. They can't share it with anyone else. So that's one way of the government protecting its citizens' interest from secure management of personal data protection. All right. And I think the other one is down to each and every one of us to ensure, you know, we are always vigilant, very mindful, whether or not that information could be misused for something that we don't want to. All right, so legitimate the legitimate request must come in writing, and it should be communicated with a official communication channel. That's what I normally do. All right, I
And
don't
not from
always
some Gmail, yeah?
not Gmail, not WhatsApp. I know WhatsApp. I'm also I'm also nowadays heavily reliant on WhatsApp for most of my day-to-day communication. But when it comes to those official things, I normally ask them to email me back the same information,
Mm.
right? Using official emails most of the
Mm.
time. Okay,
Mm.
so
Wow.
I think the other thing, you know, this 2 hours might not be enough for us to share with you what we've learned from being a cybersecurity company and from being involved with the cybersecurity industry for almost 17 years. It's changing. It's changing not as I mean, it's rapidly changing. It's evolving almost every second, right? From the story I shared with you earlier in 2003, slammer worm. It's a dumb virus. We have now sophisticated virus that know how to interject or intercept your valid computer software running on your machines.
That
To,
is just so
yeah,
crazy.
so it not just, you know, record your keystrokes, you know, and send it back
Mm.
elsewhere to the attacker. There's also ransomware nowadays. Not just ransomware, it's being offered as a service. Somebody built a ransomware, and any attacker interested to use that to attack others can just pay me a sum.
Oh, through
So
Bitcoin.
through Bitcoin, you're right. So these are the things that are evolving today. It's getting tougher for the law enforcement to especially track these people down, because they know how to evade certain controls, certain measures and monitoring that are being imposed today. All right. So the personas and the characters and the tools, technique, processes of these attackers are being researched and analyzed on an ongoing basis. So we know how to defend ourselves before we become part of the victim or part of the statistic. Other than that, I think the modern world have to have its own national laws, rules, and regulations, particularly on cybersecurity. We are perhaps guilty of not preparing ourselves much more earlier. You know, the technology is moving faster than the lawyers or the lawmakers. You know, this is just my own personal views, right? We could have done a lot more better in terms of preparing this. So we have seen very positive move by the National Cybersecurity Agency. They have recently launched the National Malaysia Cybersecurity Strategy 2020 to 2024. It will be a pinnacle kind of a framework for Malaysia to illustrate and execute a better management of cybersecurity for the country. How
Sure.
everybody should play their part and role and collaborate. All right, this is important because there's a slide I didn't show to you guys. Cybersecurity to us impact three very major groups or major items. The first one is the safety and security of the citizen. All right, they would have access to you, your information through unauthorized, entry of your devices. If you're not the victim, you could be the collateral damage or just the conduit to get to somebody else. All right. It is also damaging to our growth domestic product, GDP. It impact the economy because statistic recently I read that GDP for digital economy 2020 in the cyber or digital economy for Malaysia is worth 270 billion ringgit. Right? If we can't ensure a safe and sustainable or resilient environment, we're gonna be risking 270 billion ringgit, of our economy.
That is
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
Yeah, and the other one is it impact our productivity as well. We are having this meeting online. It's empowered by internet and telecommunication technology. Imagine if something were, nauzubillah, God forbid, were to go wrong, right? Somebody did something with this session and then show something unsuitable for kids, and that happens in Singapore.
Yes,
Basically,
we got bombed.
That happened in Singapore. So so these are probabilities that we've seen evidence of it's happening. So to me, I think the message that I would like to share through this session is cybersecurity is important. Whatever we do now depend heavily on technology, individually as well as from country point of view, as well as from the business point of view. Business is more heavily reliant on technology compared to 10 years ago. All right. And the fact that technology now are more connected to each other, that makes it bigger from the attack surface point of view. That means there's more entry point for attacker to come in unauthorizedly. All right. So we have to keep us reminded on a daily basis that to use cyber or to use the internet and social media, all digital platform, we need to know how to make ourselves resilient, avoid being an easy target.
And don't be gullible. Don't be gullible.
All right. When you see something, because the attacker know the anxiety for information is the key entry point.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I think, so the motivation of the attacker also important for us to know. If it's a business, it's most likely to know what's the trade secret of a company. All right. If it's a government, it's commonly to access personal identifiable information. All right. If it's a bank, it's most probably fraud on financial crime, stealing money. So these attackers have their own motivation. All right. From script kiddies to the hack TVs to, they want to spread ideology. So if we know who are we up against, it's easier to defend. And it's
but we don't, right? We don't, and I think this is where we cannot rely on external parties as well. We have to self-regulate. We have to self-regulate.
Start with a basic cyber hygiene.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. I think there is no right amount of time to be on social media. I think it's just you have to go on social media when you need to. So if you need to look up something or you need to post something, and if needed only. Otherwise, I think, I don't know, I remember reading an article once that 2 to 3 hours a day is sufficient social media usage, but I don't think we do that, because every time we're bored, our fingers are already scrolling something. But what I can tell you is, do not use social media right before bed. I read somewhere that not only it plays with your mind when you're sleeping, because you take that last thought into sleep, and that's what you would it would affect your sleep in some way. And somehow at night when you're on the bed, that's when you kind of don't have control over when you stop. You just go on and on and on and on, and I've known people who just spend an hour or two before bed, and I think that's the worst. And about general well-being, let me tell you this, coming from a social media influencer herself, not everything you see online is real, not everything you see online is truth. There's a lot of I would say it's made to look nicer online, everything, every post, every video, because that's how business is, right, on social media. So we tend to get carried away by comparing ourselves to someone else's social media, whether it's their influential capabilities, whether it's what they have or what they wear. I mean, from the modeling industry, it's always competition of who wore it better, or who said this better, or and I think that's very unhealthy, because honestly, it's all just good lighting, makeup, and best angles. We and also for what people have, and people don't post their failures. Okay, people post their successes, and very rarely they tell you how hard it took them to get there. And we tend to see and like, oh, they're 20 and they got this done, and they're 25 and she's got 5 kids, and she's married by this, and or she's married to some billionaire, and I think that's the hardest, because we our life has been so glued to everything online, and we tend to, it's a competition, it's a virtual competition. Unknowingly we always tend to compare. And I see, funny thing, I see parents comparing kids these days, after seeing, oh, I saw this person's daughter got this amount of A's, and why don't you try harder, and things like that. It's just a whole I think we're heading towards worse adverse outcomes after this. I don't know how the near future is going to be, but I think we have to sort of be steadfast in our grounds, and always remember that what we have, I mean, be grateful for what we already have, and stop comparing ourselves to people who've achieved more, because like I said, people don't post their failures.
Yes, I do.
then you're one of the nice ones. You're one of the nice ones. See, if I take 10 pictures and I have 9 horrible ones, I'm gonna post that one nice one. So and people are gonna compare that to everything else. So yeah.
Wow, it's just so competitive nowadays. But personally, I'll stick to authenticity. It's not about the 1% that I've succeed. It's about the balance of 99% where I have failed.
Yeah.
And I hope that with that failure and the success will inspire a lot of other people to strive to be better at the same time. And I think
I just want to add on a bit, because just
Sure.
before I moved out of Klang, my last posting, I did 4 months of psychiatry, and that was like right at the beginning of COVID. I mean MCO at the beginning, and you'd be surprised. I met so many people who I would have thought they were doing very well, but we ended up giving counseling and therapy sessions for people who have shown, some are known people that I've met in the hospital being referred for depression and adjustment disorders and bipolar, because they can't cope with the stress or competition.
Yep.
Because once MCO started, sort of someone mentioned just now, everything just went online, because you can't physically make a lot of opportunities during this time, but what you can do is online. And it's so funny that the amount of people, depression rates rise, suicide risk rise,
Yep.
and everything else. And
Even
I think
abuse,
yeah,
even
yes,
domestic
yes,
abuse.
yes. I had a lot of patients coming in. In my hospital alone, there was about a 40% rise in domestic
Wow.
abuse. Yeah,
Wow.
and that's because their only gate of like escape was work and other things. But now everyone's at home, whether it was domestic, I mean, wife abuse or husband. You'd be surprised, there's a husband abuse, and kids. All these. Everyone's equally, I think, at risk for some amount of effect on mental health when it comes to social media, especially when everything is online and everyone's trying to make something out of it.
Wow. What would be your one tip, if you have to give to our audience today? What would be that one tip on how to take care of their wellness during and moving on?
Okay. What we did with a lot of our patients who felt had this inferiority complex when on social media and things, what we gave them was a journal. It's called a gratitude book. So you sit every day before you go to bed and write 5 things that you're grateful about, and this is individual, and by the end of the month, you'd find that there are more things that you have that most people don't. And I think it's the best to remember what we're blessed with before we search for what we don't have.
Well, very quickly, Divya said it's about angles and lighting. So I changed my angle and changed my lighting so I have a nicer backdrop to show people how cool it is to work in Celcom. But one thing I'd like to advise young people especially is get out there. It doesn't matter where you start from. You think you're just a student, you don't have anything to share, but you have plenty to share. Share from the heart, share from yourself. People would like to get to know you, and build that online presence now before you graduate even, so that when you do graduate and you're out there on the job market, you at least have a history of things that you have put out there and people can refer to. And the job market is changing, guys. You're in 4 years or 6 years in college and you go out and try and find work, but the work relationship between a company and an employer is changing. There's no permanency in jobs. Things are going into gig workers and short-term stints. So build what you can now, so that when you go out there, you are on a level playing field. And it's the same for me after 30 years of working, and same with you if you've just started working. Online is a new frontier. There's no other time like now. So now's the time to build your brand and get out there. All the best.
Wow, that's very profound words of wisdom, I would say. Thank you, Azif. Can we hear from Amelia? Any last words of wisdom to our participants today?
Maybe to also echo Azif, I think people are very busy with their lifestyle, and internet users are, they have got very short attention span. So as a brand, you need to be focused on how you can involve people out there or your future employers in the storytelling, your digital storytelling. Be clear on short form content to grab the attention, or long form content so that you are able to make people curious about you. You probably get that appointment, get that engagement. And I do feel that good content will definitely improve conversations. You would make people be able to connect with you more, educate your audience, and then build trust and relationship. And I think that is key. It is very hard these days to network when you can't really go and meet physically. So hence, use the social media to help, I think, future employers or people out there to make the right decision about you.
Awesome. And I think those are very relevant and not very difficult to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And Fazril, last words of wisdom from you to our participants today.
Defending against cybersecurity is much more easier and cost much more lower than responding to one, right? So start paying attention to the your security settings on your social media. Start configuring the two-factor authentication to start with. Careful when you receive emails. If it's not intended to you, it's not safe for you to open any attachment. 9 out of 10 emails are normally malicious, right? Careful with using pirated, I think I should say stop using pirated software, right? Stop using pirated softwares because they are not supported and could be injected with malicious programs, all right? Keep your machines, keep your mobile devices up to date. When there's time to update your softwares, update it. There's a reason why they keep pushing those updates. All right. Last but not least, I think we should embrace digital, not stop using it. My point is not to start going back to paper for our business, but to analyze how can we use technology efficiently but securely, to empower our business.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's what I think I would like to end this session with. There's help. Remember, there's cybersecurity, Cyber 999 care line. If you think your email has been compromised, somebody have taken over your social media accounts, you can always reach out to Cybersecurity Malaysia. Just browse Cyber 999 under Cybersecurity Malaysia. I think that's it. Honey, thanks.
Awesome. I'm 100% on board with you. Really great words of wisdom that all of our panelists have left today. I hope that all of you have enjoyed the session and have some great takeaways from the points, the tips, the sharing, the do's and don'ts from all of our great panelists.